the reason your words aren't flowing has nothing to do with your story, your skill, or your discipline, what if it has everything to do with the space you're sitting in? There's something that most writing advice completely ignores, and that's the energy of your writing environment. Not just whether it's tidy or whether the lighting is good, but the actual energetic quality of the space you're asking your creativity to thrive in. So today we're going somewhere a little different. We're talking about space clearing, the ancient cross-cultural practice of intentionally shifting the energy of a physical environment, and we're applying it specifically to your writing space. Because the space where you write is not neutral. It holds the memory of every session you've had in it, every block, every breakthrough, every frustrated hour you've spent staring at that screen. And when you understand that, and when you know what to do about it, something can shift. Something that no writing tip or productivity hack has ever been able to touch. If you feel called to write a book, but writer's block, procrastination, and self-doubt keep pulling you from the page, you're not alone, and you're not meant to stay stuck. Hi, I'm Madison Michaels, author and life coach, and I've created this podcast as a creative space grounded in faith and mindset transformations to help you break through your blocks, gain creative clarity, and finally finish the book you're meant to write. So grab your cup of liquid gold and let's write the darn book together. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Write the Darn Book. I'm your host, Madison Michaels, and today we're exploring something I've genuinely wanted to talk about for a while because it's one of those topics that sits right at the intersection of the practical and the something more. And I think it might be exactly what some of you need to hear right now. We're talking about your writing space, not just the physical setup, though we'll absolutely get into that, but the energetic life of that space, the invisible stuff, the accumulated residue of every writing session you've had there, and what you can do to intentionally reset it so your creativity has somewhere clean and clear to land. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Let me start with something I want you to notice. Think of a time that you walked into a room and immediately everything felt heavy about it. And it wasn't because of anything you could see or explain. The room might have looked perfectly fine, but something about being in that space made you feel uncomfortable or contracted or drained or perhaps even unsettled, like the air itself was thick with something you couldn't quite name. And now I want you to think of the opposite, a space where you walked in and you almost felt immediately lighter, more open, more yourself. Could be a coffee shop perhaps, or a room in someone's house, or a spot in nature. Somewhere that held a quality that just seemed to invite ease and flow. Most of us have had both experiences. And most of us quietly know that spaces hold something, even if we've never had a language for what that something is. Across every culture in human history, from the smoke ceremonies of Indigenous peoples across the Americas and Australia, to the bell ringing and incense of Buddhist and Shinto practice, to the salt and prayer of Christian and Jewish customs, and to the intricate space clearing arts woven through Balinese or Chinese culture, people have understood that the energy of a space is real, it's felt, and it can be worked with. This isn't actually a fringe idea, though it might sound like it, but it's one of the most universally shared understandings in human experience. The spaces that we inhabit do more than shelter us physically. They hold energy, and that energy can shape how we feel, how we think, and how freely our creativity moves. And modern research is quietly catching up. Environmental psychology has demonstrated clearly that our physical surroundings, so the quality of light, the level of clutter, the acoustic environment, and the spatial flow, directly influence our mood and our stress levels and our cognitive capacity. Studies have shown that stagnant, cluttered, or emotionally loaded spaces genuinely drain us, and that intentionally refreshed environments restore something, and not just aesthetically, but neurologically. For writers, this matters so much because writing is one of the most energetically sensitive acts that a human can perform. It requires you to be open, to be present, to access the quieter, deeper layers of yourself where the real stories live. And if the space you're trying to do that in is energetically cluttered, holding old frustration, old fear, old stagnation, it makes an already vulnerable act feel even harder. So today, we're going to look at what your writing space might be holding, why it matters, and exactly what you can do to clear it and create an environment that your creativity actually wants to come home to. I want to share something that happened to me during a particularly blocked period of my writing. I'd been struggling, and not in the ordinary kind of way that writing resistance comes and goes. This felt much more entrenched, and I'd sit down at my desk, and within minutes, I'd find myself somewhere else entirely. Out in the kitchen making coffee, perhaps out on the patio checking my phone, reorganizing things in my bedroom that didn't need reorganizing. The words simply wouldn't come, and the more I tried to force them, the more blocked I felt. And then one afternoon, I looked up from my screen and I actually saw my writing space. And it was really weird because I'd been sitting in there all the time, but I really saw it genuinely for the first time in months. The desk was covered in loose papers that I'd been meaning to tidy up and file. I had books stacked haphazardly all over the desk. There were random items that didn't belong anywhere in my writing space at all. And the whole area had this quality of accumulated clutter, like it had been gathering the residue of rushed, frustrated sessions for a long time. I'd been trying to write in a space that honestly felt like the physical equivalent of a blocked mind. It was literally reflecting back to me what I felt internally. That afternoon, I didn't write a single word. Instead, I completely dismantled and reset my writing space. I literally moved my desk from one corner to another because I'd been reading about some feng shui and the idea of positioning yourself in what's called the commanding position, where you can see the door without being directly in line with it, and you're seated with a solid wall behind you. So that placement is meant to support a sense of safety, groundedness, and creative authority. So it felt right for me to give it a try. Plus, I do tend to like moving around furniture. It's just one of my quirks. But then what I did after I'd moved the furniture, I cleaned everything and cleared everything that did not belong on my desk. I dusted every surface, I vacuumed the room, I put away every single piece of loose paper, every stray item, every visual distraction. And by the time I finished, the space looked and it felt completely different. It felt lighter, more quiet, more organized. It felt like I was just in a place of such calm relaxation. It honestly felt so good to be sitting at my desk when it was all clear and clean and decluttered. And the next morning when I sat down to write, something felt as if it had genuinely shifted. And I'm not going to tell you the words poured out effortlessly. It was still early days and the block didn't vanish overnight. But I genuinely felt so much lighter and so much more motivated and wanting to be sitting in my writing space. So it felt so different to come to my writing, and it really felt like the space was mine again, that I could release any blocks and actually step back into the creative flow of writing. What I understand now, though, looking back, is that I hadn't just tidied my writing room, I'd interrupted a pattern. The stagnant, cluttered space had been reinforcing my stagnant, cluttered mental state. And when I physically transformed the environment, I gave my nervous system something different to respond to. I gave my creativity permission to return. Now, a writing space isn't just a physical location. It's a living record of every session you've ever sat down and written. Now, the breakthroughs, including the frustrations, that energy is all there. The hours of flow and the hours of resistance, that's all there too. The mornings that you arrived with hope and the afternoons you left feeling either perhaps defeated or elated, depending on how you went. And over time, all of that energy, all of those feelings accumulate in that space. Not in a metaphorical sense either, but in a very real, energetic sense that your nervous system responds to, whether or not your conscious mind is paying attention. When you sit in a space where you've experienced repeated frustration, your body remembers. Before you've written a single word, your system is already anticipating the same experience. Neuroscience tells us this is how pattern recognition works. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for cues about what's about to happen, and it uses those cues to prime you for the expected experience. Practically, what this means is that your writing space can either be working for you or working against you. And clearing it, physically, energetically, and intentionally, is one of the most powerful things you can do to interrupt old patterns and create the conditions for something new. When we talk about clearing and refreshing a writing space, there are 3 layers to work with. Each one matters and they do work together. The first layer is the physical, and this is the most tangible, and it's where most people start because it's the most visible. Physical clutter is not neutral. Research in environmental psychology is consistent on this, that visual disorder increases your cortisol levels in your body. It also reduces cognitive capacity and it makes deep focus significantly harder to achieve and access. For writers who need genuine access to quieter, more interior states in order to create, a cluttered physical environment is a genuine obstacle. Clearing the physical layer means removing everything from your writing space that doesn't serve your writing. Loose papers, unrelated items, visual distractions, things that remind you of tasks or responsibilities that have nothing to do with your creative work. It means surfaces that are clear, a space that feels ordered and intentional, and it means attending to the basic sensory quality of the environment. Good air, good light, a temperature that lets your body settle. The second layer is the spatial, and this is where ideas from Feng Shui become genuinely useful for writers. Feng Shui is the ancient Chinese art of working with the flow of energy through a space. And while the full practice is deeply intricate, there are a few key principles that apply immediately to a writing environment. The most important one for writers is what's called the commanding position, the one that I mentioned earlier. And this means positioning yourself so that you can see the entrance to the room without being directly in line with it, and that you have a solid wall behind you rather than a window or an open space. At a nervous system level, this position supports a sense of safety and control in your body. So you're not exposed from behind, which activates that nervous system threat response, and you can see what's coming, which calms your nervous system of that threat response. And when your nervous system feels genuinely safe, creative access becomes so much easier to tap into. You're not in a threat scanning state. You actually go inward and you're able to access your creativity. Now, if you can't move your desk, there are other ways to work with the spatial layer. Adding a mirror to reflect the doorway so you can see behind you. That helps to clear the energy flow paths through the room. Or simply removing anything from your direct eye line that pulls your attention away from the page also helps. The third layer is the energetic, and this is where we move into territory that ancient traditions have worked with for thousands of years, even if modern science doesn't yet have a complete framework for it. The basic understanding is this: Spaces hold the emotional and energetic residue of what's taken place within them. You know that old saying, if these walls could talk? Well, that is essentially talking about that emotional and energetic residue. Now, significant emotional experiences could be sustained frustration, procrastination, fear, grief, conflict, and equally deep feelings of joy, elation, creative flow. All of those emotional states leave something behind in the very fabric of the space. And while this is very difficult to measure with conventional instruments, it's widely experienced, widely documented, etc., across cultures. And it's increasingly supported by emerging research in the biofield of science, which examines how human emotional and physiological states actually generate electromagnetic fields that interact with the environments that we inhabit. For your writing space specifically, this means that years or months of blocked sessions of anxious writing, self-critical inner dialogue, and frustrated attempts to write can accumulate as a quality in the space itself, a heaviness that reinforces more of the same patterns and behaviours. And clearing all that energy intentionally can help to genuinely shift it. Here's a practical process that you can work through in any order that makes sense for your space and your personality. And you don't need to do all of these at once. Even one layer of clearing can create a noticeable shift. Start with the physical clear. Okay, so remove everything from the surface of your writing space that doesn't belong there and put it somewhere else. And only keep what genuinely belongs there that supports your writing. Be ruthless. Every item that remains is either functional for writing or it's contributing to the energy you're sitting in. Then I want you to dust and vacuum thoroughly. Physical cleaning and energetic clearing are more connected than they might seem. And there's a reason virtually every space clearing tradition in the world begins with physical cleansing. Then I want you to look at your spatial arrangement. If you can, move your desk into the commanding position, facing the room with a wall at your back. Experiment with what feels right for you to sit down there. And notice whether your body settles differently if you are sitting in different corners or areas of your space. If you're a kinesthetic writer whose modality is body-based, all about feelings, then this shift could be really immediately and viscerally obvious to you. If you're a visual writer, take a long look at what you're seeing from your chair. And what you see is what you'll be writing into. So make it worth looking at, see if it's working or not for you. For the energetic layer, there are several approaches that have been used across traditions for thousands of years, and you can choose whatever resonates with you and your beliefs. Sound is one of the most powerful clearing tools available. Sharp clapping in the corners of the room or ringing a bell is used across Buddhist, shamanic and indigenous traditions to break up stagnant energy. The physics of this makes intuitive sense too, because sound is vibration and vibration moves stuck things. You can also work with smoke, so burning sage sticks or incense or any aromatic herb or aromatherapy oil. That can actually help to clear the space too. Salt, also placed in corners, has been used in numerous traditions as an absorbing and purifying agent. So salt lamps can be a really good one for this, or even just a little bowl of salt, whatever works for you. Even simply opening windows and allowing fresh air and natural light to move through a space is one of the oldest and most universal clearing methods known. What matters more than the specific method is the intention you bring to it. You're not performing a ritual for its own sake. You're making a conscious, deliberate choice about what you want the energy of your writing space to be. You're declaring something, and that declaration, that act of conscious creation, is itself energetically significant. Finally, after the clearing, take a moment to set an intention for the space. And this doesn't need to be elaborate. It can be as simple as sitting quietly in your cleared writing space and saying out loud or internally something like, "This is a space for my creativity to flow, for my story." I have up on a whiteboard that I can always see, I am a vessel for the story. Let the words flow through me. That is my mantra, and I see that. And every time I sit in my space, that is what I say. And it really helps set the intention of what I'm doing and the space itself. Now, remember, your nervous system responds to language. So having that intention that you say internally or out loud can really help your creativity respond to that invitation you're giving it. Maintaining the energy of your writing space is important. Remember, a one-time clearing creates a reset, but a maintained practice creates a foundation. So once you've cleared your writing space, a few simple habits will help you to keep the energy clear and supportive over time. Keep the physical space clear as a non-negotiable. Clutter accumulates quickly, don't we all know it, right? And with clutter, the energetic weight returns. Even spending just a couple of minutes at the end of your writing session to put things back in order is an act of respect for yourself and your writing space, and for your future self who's going to be sitting down there next. Now, another little cool tip, and that's really great to bring into your space if you can, is something that's living. So a plant, a fresh flower, a bowl of water. Living things have energy, and it also helps signal to your nervous system that you are in a vital, growing, generative environment. So if you're a dove or peacock writer who responds deeply to beauty and warmth, this detail matters much more than you might think. Open your windows before you write when weather permits, and you can. Fresh air and natural light are the most basic and most powerful environmental reset tools available. They're also free, so try and make use of them when you can. And I want you to pay attention and notice when your space starts to feel heavy again. You will know 100%, I guarantee that. There's that subtle, contracted quality, perhaps a slight reluctance to sit down where you do your writing, or it could be a sense that the room isn't quite welcoming you the way it should. Those are signals, and when you notice them, return to the clearing process. It doesn't need to be as comprehensive as the first time. Sometimes 10 minutes of physical tidying and 5 minutes of opening windows and just setting up your space is enough to restore the quality that you're looking for to help you get back into creative alignment and flow. Now, it is worth noting that different writing personalities relate differently to their physical environments, and understanding your writing personality can help you to personalize your writing space in a way that supports your specific wiring. Dove writers tend to be deeply sensitive to the emotional quality of their environment. So warmth, softness, meaningful objects, and a sense of sanctuary are really important to doves. So if you're a dove writer, your writing space might benefit from a photograph that moves you, or a candle, or something that represents to you why your book matters. Remember, you write from the heart, and your space should hold that quality too. Our writers do their best work in ordered, structured, distraction-free environments. So if there's any visual clutter, that is going to potentially disrupt an owl's cognitive creative flow faster than almost anything else. An owl's version of space clearing might be highly systematic, a detailed physical clear, everything in its designated place, a defined order to how the space is organised. That precision is not fussiness, it's how an owl's creative mind breathes and relaxes. Peacock writers, though, are energised by creative stimulation and visual interest. A completely stark space can feel deadening to a peacock and their creativity. So peacocks need something in their environment that sparks the imagination. So if you're a peacock writer, this could be a vision board or art up on the wall that excites you, colours that feel alive in the space. The key for peacocks is that the stimulating elements are chosen and intentional rather than just accumulated clutter. Curated inspiration is very different from just messy visual noise. Now, eagle writers generally want a space that signals productivity and momentum. So clear, functional, purposeful. That should be an eagle writer's ideal environment. So you want it set up to support efficiency, focus, output. And that often means minimal distraction, clear goals visible, and everything within reach. If you're an eagle, your space clearing might look like a system audit rather than a ritual, and that's entirely appropriate. The result is the same though. It's a space that tells your nervous system it's time to create. So here's what I want to leave you with today, my friends. Before your next writing session, do something intentional with your writing space. It doesn't need to be elaborate. Even one action from what we've covered today, clearing a surface, moving your chair, moving your desk, opening a window, burning some incense, sometimes that can be enough to interrupt an old pattern and signal that something is different now. Notice what shifts, not just in the space, but in how you feel when you sit down there. Notice whether there's a quality of ease that wasn't there before. Notice whether the words come a little more freely and whether your body settles a little more quickly and whether the resistance has a slightly different texture than it did before. And if you're someone that's been sitting in the same heavy, cluttered and energetically stagnant writing space for months or even years, I want to offer you something important. The fact that you're blocked in that space doesn't mean you are broken as a writer. It simply means that perhaps the space just needs clearing. So try it. And you might be really surprised with what was waiting on the other side of a clean desk and an open window for you and your book. And if you'd like to explore your writing personality in more depth, I am booked out with my coaching spots, but I've opened up a small number of one-off deep dive sessions about writing personalities and actually creating a unique blueprint for you. Basically, the session itself is designed to help you understand exactly how you're wired to write so you can finally move forward with clarity and momentum. Inside the session, you're not only going to walk away with understanding your unique writing personality, you're also going to work away with the specific tools that you need to actually harness how you are uniquely wired to write and then apply it to your own writing every time you sit down to write. So if you're ready to have a clear blueprint for what works uniquely for you, your personality, and the way your mind approaches writing, head to madisonmichaels.com/blueprint and book in a session. There is only a few available each week, given my limited availability, but honestly, it's such a powerful one-off session and it really is going to help you have the tools to move forward. So I'd love to support you inside of one. Remember, my friends, your writing space is so crucial in terms of how you sit down to write each day. It is not just a backdrop to your creative life. It's a part of it. And the energy you sit in shapes the energy you write from. And you have more influence over that than you might have actually realized. So clear your space, set the intention, and then open the document and write the darn book. And remember, you are the vessel for your story. So let the words flow through you and onto the page. Until next episode, my friends, take care and let's write the darn book together. My friend, I hope today's episode gave you exactly what you needed for your writing journey. And if it did, would you take 30 seconds to share it with another writer who's struggling to start or finish their book? And if you're loving the show, I'd be so grateful if you left a quick review. It means the world to me and truly makes my day to know that this podcast is helping you. And as you head back into your week, I hope you feel more supported and connected to your creativity. And remember, you're a vessel for the story. So let the words flow through you and onto the page. All right, I'm off to refill my cup of liquid gold and go and do a little writing of my own. Take care, and I'll meet you back here in the next episode of Write the Darn Book.